This is CNN breaking news.
Welcome to CNN, Sarah Palin.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. Islami.
What do you think about the international environmental policy?
What are you talking about? I'm just kidding. Well, the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Endangered Species Act, Food Security Act, Pollution Prevention Act, Safe Drinking Water Act are part of the policy, right?
Yes, Palin, you are right, but can you tell me a little bit more about each one of them?
Sure. Let me start with the Clean Air Act. The Clean Air Act protects and improves the quality of air in order to safeguard human health and the environment.
Interesting, but tell me a bit more, please.
The Clean Air Act limits emissions of pollutants by motor vehicles and industries. It also lets people sue industries that break the rule. The act sets nationwide standards governing air pollutants and air quality.
What do you think about that air in our country? Is it safe, or is it getting worse each day?
Ha ha ha, that is a very difficult question, Mr. Islami. I don't know, but can you answer that?
Well, I think it's getting worse every day and nothing is being done.
That sucks, doesn't it? We need everyone to contribute in order to save planet Earth.
That is so true, but let's continue with the next policy, the Clean Water Act.
The Clean Water Act establishes the basic structure for regulating discharges of pollutants into the waters of the United States and regulating quality standards for surface waters.
From what I understand, under the CWA, EPA has implemented pollution control programs such as setting wastewater standards for industry. We have also set water quality standards for all contaminants in surface waters. Am I right?
Yes, you are, Mr. Islami. The CWA made it unlawful to discharge any pollutant from a point source into navigable waters, unless a permit was obtained.
That is really interesting. I mean, this is something that we really need to protect us from any harmful chemicals that always get into the water system. I'm glad that we are doing something about it.
Indeed.
Our animals. Do you think they are safe? From what I have heard, there are possibilities for the animals that will become extinct.
Oh my God. Who did you hear that from, Barack Obama?
I will not mention any names, because that has nothing to do with my question. So is it true what I have heard?
Yes, Mr. Islami, you are correct. This brings us to the next topic, protecting biodiversity.
Protecting biodiversity? Sounds interesting. Can you please inform the nation about this, please?
Sure. Biodiversity can be protected by law. In the United States, the major law that protects biodiversity is the Endangered Species Act. It has three major parts. First, it forbids the government and private citizens from harming listed endangered and threatened species or their habitats. Second, the ESA forbids trade in products made from species that are on the list. Finally, it requires the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to maintain the official list of endangered and threatened organisms and to develop recovery plans for each protected species.
Has there ever been an animal that caused some controversy?
Yes, Mr. Islami, the northern spotted owl caused some controversy in the Pacific Northwest when loggers lost their jobs. We have animals that we really need to protect. Polls show that most Americans support the idea of protecting endangered species.
That's really true, because animals are very important to our society, and without them life would not be the same as it would be now.
You want to know something, Mr. Islami?
Sure. I would gladly love to hear what you have to say.
You make this interview so interesting. Maybe sometime after the interview we can go out for dinner.
That's a little off topic there. Can we please proceed with the next topic, the Pollution Prevention Act?
Okay, we will talk about it after the interview. The Pollution Prevention Act requires the Environmental Protection Agency to establish an Office of Pollution Prevention, develop and coordinate a pollution prevention strategy, and develop source reduction models. The Act requires owners and operators of manufacturing facilities to report annually on source reduction and recycling activities, and authorizes EPA to collect data collection on pollution prevention.
Why did they authorize the EPA to collect data collection on pollution prevention?
That's how they roll. Why do you worry?
I worry because I would like to know the reason why, and the viewers at home also. Why are you getting so offended? It's not like I'm asking you a personal question, so chill out, Palin. You should be more concerned about your daughter, and not to worry much about my questions about the environment.
Shame on you, putting my daughter on the spotlight. Anyways, the reason why EPA collects data is to see if they are improving, or if they are failing. It's for our own good to know how we treat planet Earth. We see pollution going on every single day, and it is getting difficult each day. It is hard to stop, because no one is paying enough attention to what they are doing.
That is so true, Sarah. I mean, we see people just throwing materials to the streets, landfills, and waterways. They think they can do whatever they want, but instead they do not notice that they are affecting the future for their children's. They will not suffer now, but years down the road, their children's and grandchildren's will suffer. We do have now that are suffering, but nothing is being done. It is not just America, but the world too.
Also, going back to the question you stated earlier, another reason why we collect data, because it is mandatory by the government. Without data collection, we will have no statistics to prove to the nation.
Thank you, Palin, for the update. So what else is there to know about the environmental policies around this world?
Have you heard about the Safe Drinking Water Act?
It does sound familiar. I can't recall the last time I heard about this act. Please, Palin, inform me about it a bit more with details. I'm sure gladly you will, right?
Yes, of course, our sweet stuff. The Safe Drinking Water Act is the main federal law that ensures the quality of Americans' drinking water. Under SDWA, EPA sets standards for drinking water quality and oversees the states, localities, and water suppliers who implement those standards.
Interesting. Can you tell me about the standards?
There are 6 standards and risk managements, but I will just introduce a couple to you. For example, current drinking water regulations. It provides information on regulations on contaminants EPA regulates in drinking water.
How important is it to use to maintain these standards?
Very important. Without these standards, we wouldn't know what to do. It's for our own good to protect the drinking system. We want to make it safe for people to drink water the way they should. We do not want any harmful chemicals going into the drinking system, because it will be hazardous.
That is so true. It would be like me drinking pee instead of clean water.
Ha ha ha. I love your jokes. They make me laugh. I bet you have more than just jokes, if you know by what I mean.
Let's not get to that point, Sarah, because I will gun your daughter. So don't start with me.
Okay, relax. Is there anything else you would like to know about the environment, Mr. Islami?
Matter of fact, I do. Remember the oil spill that just recently happened? How much of an impact did that have in our environment?
It had a major impact to our environment, Mr. Islami. It was a catastrophic event and many suffered.
That is really terrifying to hear, Palin.
The oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico was one of the greatest fears that we have ever faced, because we were worried about the oil coming to the coastline of America.
The policies that you mentioned earlier in the interview, did it have anything to do with the oil spill?
Of course they did. Are you really asking me that question? Yes, everything that I mentioned during the interview had something to do with each of the policies.
Can you tell me what was affected?
Well, it did, however, affect each one of the acts that I mentioned earlier.
Really? Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Of course it affected the water in a variety of ways, right?
Correct, Mr. Islami. When oil is released into water, it does not blend with the water. Oil floats on the surface of salt and fresh water. Over a very short period of time, the oil spreads out into a very thin layer across the surface of the water. This layer, called a slick, expands until the oil layer is extremely thin.
Interesting. It's amazing how a catastrophic event like this occurred. It's not only the water that was affected, but animals and weather also.
Yes, Mr. Islami, the animals and the weather was also affected due to the oil spill on the Gulf of Mexico, but we did try to help and save, but the oil was way too much to handle.
Yeah, and you made a very interesting point tonight on our topic about the environmental policies.
It was a pleasure. And anytime you want answers, you can hit me up on Facebook or BBM.
Awesome. Well, that will be all, folks, for tonight. Thanks for watching Mr. Islami on CNN with Sarah Palin about the environmental policies. Tune in next week for a new topic about travel and life. You can also visit my website, www.journeychannel.net. If you wish to be interviewed, you can contact me at my website.